It's January. You know, everybody's got the depressing blues. But this week, Tesco put Freddos to 10p, and to cap it off, it's the Football Natter. It's episode 2 of series 2, and have we got one hell of a scorcher for you. I said it's a scorcher. Harry, tell the people what have we got lined up this week.
Well, we've got a championship running, more transfer news, the Carabao Cup final, as well as Huddersfield's new boss, Jan Seiwert, and finally, our previews for Tuesday and Wednesday's Premier League games.
Okay, so let's get in with it with our championship running. So, Leeds currently sit top of the table with 54 points, closely followed by Norwich City with 53, followed by West Brom with 50, as well as Sheffield United with 50, all playing 28 games. It's going to be a hell of a close run-in for automatic promotion. Now, Leeds have lost 3 of their last 5 games, so, you know, Bielsa's men falling a little bit under the cosh, but actually, when you look at the whole season, they've been incredible from start to finish, and really they are very, very deserving, you know, of this place at the top of the league. But Norwich City have been a big surprise because, you know, if you'd asked me at the start of the season where would Norwich City come, I would have told you mid-table. But, you know, with Pookie, you know, and Jordan Rhodes, you know, a real very good striker to bring off the bench, proper quality championship striker, they've really, really sustained that top position. You know, and when we spoke about the championship earlier in the season when Norwich were actually top, you know, we said, are they going to be able to keep this up? And they very well, you know, are looking like they are going to. Now, Leeds United, what's going to be key for them come the end of January is that they've kept Kemar Roof. He's a key part of their promotion push. But what I like from Leeds, and we spoke briefly about this last week when we talked about Spygate, is that Bielsa very, very much is a big fan of the youngsters from the academy. You've got Jack Clark, who is a 17-year-old winger who is now a regular first-team starter for Leeds. You've got Jack Harrison, the 21-year-old, on loan from Manchester City. Great young talent, and, you know, they deserve to be where they are, you know, for the simple fact that they're playing good football and they're believing in youngsters, and those youngsters are really playing off. If you look at the average age of Leeds' bench, it's something stupid about 20, 21. You know, it's ridiculous to have a squad that young fighting for promotion to the Premier League. It just highlights the fantastic work that Bielsa has done. But do you think Leeds are going to keep it up? Are they going to win the league in the end?
I think they will do. You know, a lot of the fans have that buzz around them, like they feel something special is happening this season. And although things are getting significantly worse after Bielsa lost his binoculars and he's not allowed to spy anymore, I still think they're going to do well. I still think they're playing well. And you touched on a few great players there, like Kemar Roof. He's been pretty important to them, and I think they will hang on to him. I don't know if you will. But as long as they keep their main players and they maintain the core of their team and they keep, you know, playing well, even though they are struggling a little bit at the moment, I expect that Leeds will keep up that first place spot. It's just a question of whether Norwich will maintain their consistency to grab second, because they've got Sheffield United, West Brom clipping at their heels. You know, it's going to be a really close fight, especially for that second spot.
So if we kind of focus on that second spot more with West Brom. Now, West Brom have lost Harvey Barnes. Leicester have recalled him. Now, they have brought in Mason Holgate from Everton, and I watched West Brom's game versus Norwich when they drew. My God, Mason Holgate completely tore up that right side. I mean, I think that the fact that Jonathan Lecco, who's a young academy graduate from West Brom, he's playing, him and Holgate are very much prominent down that right wing. And Lecco, he just draws inside and he allows Holgate to come on the outside. And you know what? The amount of times he got in the box or had shots off that, you know, really needed a good save to stop him scoring. I was amazed at where this Mason Holgate had come from, because we hadn't really seen that in the Premier League at Everton. But, you know, he's thriving at Championship level now, and that is a very good signing going into the second half of the season from West Brom. But what a job Darren Moore has done. You know, from when they just missed out on surviving relegation, when he won manager of the month when he came in when Alan Pardew was sacked. You know, Darren Moore's done a brilliant job, and many people was very sceptical about whether he should have whether he should have got the permanent job and, you know, trying to take West Brom back to the Premier League. But wow, he's done a very good job. They've been very consistent all season. They've only lost 6 games drawing 8 and winning 14. And they're good, they score as well. They've scored 57 goals in the league, which is actually the highest amount in the whole league. They've scored 57 goals. They've had a decent last 5 games, drawing 2, winning 2, losing 1. But going into this second half of the season, particularly into the running, they haven't got the hardest running at the end of the season, and they'll be looking to really capitalise that against Leeds and Sheffield United and Norwich. Now, Sheffield United, they were up there last season. What a job Chris Wilder has done. To have players like Billy Sharp, who's in incredible form, and David McGoldrick, what a signing he's turned out to be from Ipswich. How much are Ipswich missing him this season? We're going to get onto the relegation battle in a little bit. But wow, what a job Sheffield United have done. Dean Henderson, the Manchester United goalkeeper, he's really showed that from last season where he was top level League One goalkeeper, he's completely stepped up and now he seems to be a top level Championship goalkeeper. Where does this man go? Is he now going to go back next season, be the backup to De Gea at Man United? Is there no limit to this man? What do you think of particularly the fight between Sheffield United and West Brom for that second spot?
Well, we mentioned it before when we did our Championship preview that West Brom are brilliant at scoring goals. That's 57, you said, and they're the top scorers in the league. And maybe not everyone would have seen that coming at the beginning, but that really puts them in a high contention for possibly even automatic promotion if they continue in the way that they are. And as you said, there are so many great players in that team, even like Jay Rodriguez. He's really a Premier League quality kind of player in there. And Mason Holgate was a good loan signing from Everton because he showed some promise. Yeah, maybe even more prominently for West Brom now, he's linking up with players like Lecco, who we saw flashes of his brilliance when he was playing towards the end of the season in the Premier League when West Brom was still there. And as for Sheffield United, this is kind of their second season now when they're going for that kind of promotion push. Last season it completely fell apart, and similarly they had some good players on loan that season, like what's his name, Karen Carter-Vickers from Tottenham. He'd been quite good for them, and they were looking like they were going to do it, but completely fell apart. This season is looking like they're going to be able to maintain. Billy Sharp, as you touched on, he's a great goal scorer. He's a bit on the older side, so I don't know about a step up to Premier League, but it's close. They are two teams who are quite good at scoring. They're two teams with great individual players. I think it'll be close. I actually would probably say West Brom more likely to go up and get second, if anything, or at least, make a better run in the playoffs. I could be proven wrong, but it's going to be a close one. That's what I'd say.
And, so that's the kind of race for the top 2, but the race for the top 6 is still very much on. Frank Lampard's Derby County, as everybody loves to call them, because, Derby County didn't exist before Frank Lampard. His team are 46 points after 28 games played, but Bristol City and Hull City are closing the gap. Bristol City have won 4 out of their last 5 games, as of Hull, but Bristol City are just 2 points behind Derby County now. Hull City just 6 points. Now Hull City were very, very average at the start of the season, but the job that Nigel Adkins has done on not the best budget, you got to admit. The owners just aren't investing in the club anymore. The fans don't turn up to the home games. To actually see the job that he's done is incredible. Jared Bowen, linked with moves to the Premier League. You're going to talk a little bit about him, but what a player. He's really stepped up come this second half of the season. And you know what? With him in the side, if they keep him with players like Fraser Campbell actually hitting some form in front of goal, and David Marshall as well, the goalkeeper, he's actually hitting some form. He had a great season with Cardiff when they got promoted years ago. And, he was with Hull in the Premier League and we didn't really think he was incredible, but he's actually stepped up and he's really leading that back line at Hull and he's really got them together and playing well as a unit. And that's why they've risen up the table. But you're going to talk a bit about Jared Bowen.
Yeah, well, first of all, great news for all Arsenal fans because Socrates has just got injured. Yeah, we got the Arsenal-Man U game on the background. But Jared Bowen, well, he's such an important player to Hull. He's scored 14 goals this season, and he is not
for a mid-table side.
And he is not even a striker. He plays more of an attacking midfield or even a winger role for Hull, and that is a brilliant return. And this is the second season running where he has been their most vital player by a long shot, to be honest. Not just that, Hull have gone 10 games unbeaten now. They could make it 11 in their game against Blackburn, which is crucial because they're both on 40 points in the Championship. But that also includes 7 wins, like a 6-0 against Bolton and a 2-0 at Leeds, at Ellen Road. What an incredible result that was. Hull, They're really looking like they're going to challenge. They were 24th, last place at one point this season, and they've come so far. And there are teams such as Middlesbrough who just aren't scoring the goals. And yeah, they're great defensively, but can they really maintain that kind of playoff push? I'm not sure. Whereas Hull, they're fighting, they're hungry, and they're going for it. Can the Tigers get the playoffs? I think they've got a good chance.
Well, we will see how Nigel Atkins does. But you got an interesting team in the Championship, which, like Hull, are on 40 points, are Swansea, relegated from the Premier League last season. They've had a lot of clearing out. They've focused a lot on very much their academy players to step up, because obviously there's a big decrease between the amount of TV revenue between the Premier League and the Championship, although the clubs get ridiculous parachute payments, which really doesn't really make a difference. But they've focused very much had a complete squad clear out under Graham Porter. He's wanted to bring in a kind of a very much youthful side, which is going to take them forward for many years to come. And it came out this week in a press conference that he thinks that he doesn't actually want to go for the playoff spots. So he is completely denying all ambition to go for the playoffs when they are only 6 points off with 18 games to go. Is that a ridiculous thing to say, Harry?
It is, because like I said, Hull, they have that hunger to go for the playoffs, and all the players are saying it. The manager has said that he just wants to keep up that winning run, and that is what you should be like as a Championship side. What are Swansea going for? Why aren't they going for the playoffs? They're close, and they've got some quality players in there, and we know that they've got, the kind of framework to go for the Premier League. They've been in there for a long time. Would you have thought that they'd be kind of mid-table in the Championship when Michu was banging in the goals all those years ago when they won the League Cup? No, I wouldn't have done. And the thing is I don't understand the statement. What is the basis of that? I don't know if he said more, but I don't understand the basis of that statement, really.
Okay, so turning our attention to the bottom half of the Championship, in particularly the relegation battle, and it's close between some teams and, Ipswich have got 18 points, Bolton are then on 23rd with 22, Reading in 22nd with 23, Rotherham with 25, and Wigan with 29, and Millwall with 29. So it really is very much a three-horse race by the look of it, with two of those three teams getting relegated. Now, at the minute, it's Rotherham, which are just scraping outside the relegation zone, 2 points ahead. Now, they've got Leeds in their next game, so something tells me they're not going to pick up any points. Now, I'm not sure who Reading of Bolton have got, but based on Bolton's last 5 games, losing 3, drawing 1, winning 1, and, Ipswich Town, Paul Lambert's come in, he's done okay, but at the end of the day, I think when he came in, I feel sorry for Paul Hurst, because, he came in from Shrewsbury, he was really ambitious about being a Championship manager and really building a new Ipswich team after the long reign of Mick McCarthy had come to an end. But it just didn't seem to work out. Maybe he just didn't get a grasp of how tough the Championship was and kind of the work that was needed to stay up. Paul Lambert, knows the Championship very well, but I don't really think he's going to be able to keep them up. The investment just isn't there. Marcus Evans isn't the kind of owner that's going to go and spend millions and millions of pounds to try and keep them up. So I very, very much think we could see Ipswich Town in League One next season. Who's going to join them? Rotherham. If it was my bet, it would be Rotherham and Bolton. I think Reading might just scrape, survival. For me, it's going to be Rotherham, Bolton, and Ipswich to be relegated. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'd probably agree. Rotherham, Bolton, and Ipswich. We've seen Ipswich struggle for a few seasons now. They just can't seem to get some momentum together. That's been their downfall. Also, you touched on Rotherham, who, of course, a couple of seasons ago had that dreadful campaign where they crashed out of the Championship into League One. But they came right back, obviously, and they're struggling again. And then there's Bolton, who, as I mentioned earlier, lost 6-0 to Hull. It just seems that defensively they struggle a lot. And how weird, because they used to be, decently comfortable in the Premier League at points. They've had some decent managers, decent players over the years. Yeah. So that's quite odd to see. Reading, though, how weird to see
A
that
couple
when
of seasons ago,
Stam, when he was manager, had took them to the playoff final against Huddersfield
2
Town,
years later.
and now they are fighting relegation. Never would have thought that. Never would have thought that, but that just shows the nature of the Championship. Anyone can get near the top, anyone can fall down to the bottom. It is just, every man for himself in the Championship, and it does show the quality of the league and why so many watch it. It's the third most watched league in the world. But that relegation fight is close. Not entirely sure who will go down, but that would be my prediction as well. I think I'd agree with you on that.
Okay, so that is our Championship roundup. What do you think? What do you make of our opinions? Email thefootballnatter@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts. But moving on to our 3 other smaller sections of this week's episode, and our quick-fire transfer news, thoughts on the Carabao Cup, and Huddersfield Town's new boss. So, begin with transfer news. Now, De Ligt at Ajax, the young 19-year-old centre-back, has been linked with a move to Manchester City this week. What do you kind of think to that move? What do you think to that move, Harry? I mean, young player, very good club, a club which is going to consistently get Champions League and help him prospect. But is there really room for him? Are they thinking about a Vincent Kompany replacement?
Well, I think that they probably are, because Ajax have produced some brilliant young players this year. You saw Frankie de Jong.
60-something million to Barca?
Yeah, not surprising, because honestly, the way he'd been playing this season was brilliant. He was looking like a top player, not just a young player, but just a top player. And I really rated him. And now you've got De Ligt, and he's a very composed defender. He's a very reliable defender. And I'm not surprised that he's getting interest from...
He's very mature for his age.
He's very mature, very composed. And I'm not surprised that he's getting interest from one of the best clubs in the world. As for is the room, I think that you're right, he probably is a replacement for Kompany. But they've got Laporte, Otamendi, Stones. Where is he going to come in? I'd be surprised. I think he'd probably partner up with Laporte the way it's going, because Laporte's been very successful the last season. I think he'll probably stay. Ajax, you got to worry for them, because obviously they got Real Madrid in the round of 16 in the Champions League. And personally, I thought they were going to win that round of 16, because Real Madrid have been very poor this season, especially defensively. And I was looking at the talent in that team, and I expected Ajax to get through that, but
they still can. I reckon
they still can, and Real Madrid are still quite unreliable, so it's there. The chance is still there, but as far as Ajax are concerned, they're going to be quite upset that once again they're losing all their prospects. But as for Man City, De Ligt could be a great centre back over the years. I'm excited to see him in the Premier League if he does come, and I think that probably is a good move for him.
Now, what came out on the gossip on section of the BBC Sport website this morning was that West Ham are willing to pay the release clause of £45 million for Maxi Gomez from Celta Vigo, the striker in La Liga that's only scored 9 goals this season. Is he really worth the £40 million? Because quite frankly, in my opinion, what the hell are they doing trying to sign Maxi Gomez? Arnautovic has now said he's going to stay. Now, West Ham have always struggled with consistent strikers, but a guy who's only scored 9 goals in La Liga so far this season probably isn't the man to solve that. If I was them, I'd wait till the summer. At the end of the day, they're not necessarily going to be able to go for top 6 this season. It's been a successful season for West Ham considering where they've been over the last 3 years. So I would leave any signing of a striker until next season. I think in the summer, West Ham have really got to have a clear out. They need to get rid of Andy Carroll. They need to get rid of Chicharito, arguably. Arnautovic is a very good striker, but they need to just have a big clear out West Ham. Antonio really isn't the player we thought he would be in a few years' time, when he had that amazing first season at West Ham. So, at the end of the day, I don't know why they're going for Maxi Gomez. He's probably not going to be able to step up, and he's just going to be another failure. And to pay £43 million for him is ridiculous. So, for me, that's a stupid signing. What other transfer news have you found, Harry?
Well, Alexis Sanchez has just come through with a very rare goal for Man United in the FA Cup. Took it around Petr Cech. And the transfer news I've got, well, this is a transfer that's happened, but I just found quite interesting. So, Kevin Prince Boateng to Barcelona. So, a lot of people are saying, what a weird transfer. This player is a bit of a journeyman. He hasn't really settled. He's never really taken off at clubs such as Tottenham, for example. But he's going over there after a stint with Sassuolo, which didn't last that long. But he scored 4 goals and 1 assist in 13 games for Sassuolo. And a lot of people are saying, is that really much? But I just want to say, he was playing a lot of the time attacking midfield or, just in behind either Berardi or Babacar. And that is quite a good return, considering he's even dropped into midfield at times. And he hasn't even always started, so, people need to give him a chance to see how he goes. Obviously, Barcelona lost 2-0 to Sevilla in the first leg of their game against them in the Copa del Rey. But I reckon he's a good signing. It's just until the end of the season. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. But Barcelona are also looking at Juan Mata, I hear. Interesting. Very technical player, but a little bit on the older side once again. And I think that Barcelona already have an issue with kind of an ageing team, an ageing core. Gerard Piqué, Sergio Busquets. Obviously, they've already lost Iniesta and Xavi over the last 2-3 seasons, which has been pretty bad for them. And they're looking again for that kind of creativity in the midfield area. I don't know if he's going to be able to provide that, to be honest, because he's not got so much pace anymore. He's not really played consistently for Man United.
Boateng said he feels he could play as striker.
Boateng?
Yeah.
Oh, Boateng, yeah. I think... Wow, United have scored again. Yeah, I think that Boateng could definitely play as striker, but Mata... I don't know where he'd play. I think he'd probably play a kind of right mid or maybe even attacking midfield, but he would be on the bench. He'd just be another bench warmer. Not that that's going to be anything different to what he is now. So it'll be just interesting to see where Barcelona go in this transfer window. It's been a weird one so far.
Okay, so moving away from transfer news, we will have a special next week after deadline day. What big deals do we think are going to happen on deadline day? We will soon find out. But moving on to the Carabao Cup. So, Manchester City smashed Burton in the second leg 1-0. Of course, the damage had already been done in the first, beating them 9-0 at home. So Manchester City progressed to the Carabao Cup final for the second year in a row, winning a 10-0 aggregate against Burton. I mean, they didn't really stand a chance. Fair play to them for, getting that far, but they didn't really stand a chance. And, of course, Chelsea beating Spurs on penalties, 4-2 on penalties, coming from behind 1-0 on aggregate, coming to draw the game 2-2 on aggregate. I personally thought Chelsea, they started fantastically well, but I thought Spurs actually showed quite a lot of character to come back. Llorente to get that goal, and it was an important goal. It was a vital goal. So, Tottenham did well, considering I thought they were very much on the back foot for the whole game. So they did well to draw it. But, what a pathetic penalty from Eric Dyer. Fancy smashing it over the bar. Sometimes you just got to keep your head, and David Luiz showed that. Jorginho showed that. What a penalty from Jorginho. Absolutely taking the mick out of Gazzaniga. But if we focus on the final now, Manchester City versus Chelsea. Now, I personally think Manchester City are going to win it again. I don't really see Chelsea. I think Sarri ball's it's just been figured out. Yeah, we said this last week. Sarri ball has just been figured out, and teams are really easy, being able to set themselves up against Sarri, because he doesn't really adapt his style of play through each game. It's very much the same structure. Some games it works, and it's shown that some games it doesn't. So for me, Pep Guardiola is just going to outmaster him, outclass him in the management department, and City are going to walk away with the Carabao Cup for the second year in a row.
Obviously, Chelsea put out a brilliant performance last night against Tottenham. Really well played, to be fair to them. Hazard, wow. He played incredibly well. He was dangerous on that left wing. He's so much better there than he is at centre forward. And I just really rate him, to be honest. And I think that the whole team put out a good performance, bar maybe Jorginho, who I don't think really suits that CDM. He's a bit too slow. And I don't really know if he is suiting that so deep. I think Kante was better in that role, to be honest. But anyway, against City, obviously, incredible season so far. Once again, they've got so much squad depth. And obviously 10-0 against Burton. I know it's Burton, but that's ridiculous on aggregate. And you can just see them really putting their all into this competition, because the Premier League is uncertain. The Champions League is always an uncertain one, and they're really going to want to guarantee some silverware. But Chelsea, they might show that fighting spirit. It's been a really difficult season for them. They're trying to find their feet. Sarri Bowl hasn't really worked yet. And to be honest, I don't know if it ever will. And the truth is that it's going to be down to the individual brilliance of the likes of Hazard, because unless Higuain surprises everyone, becomes some kind of absolute god at scoring,
I doubt it.
which we really doubt, to be honest. We think he's probably going to be another donkey. But unless there is some kind of miracle, I think that City will probably walk away with this one. But if Hazard does show his brilliance, it could be a very close game. It's going to be interesting to see.
Okay, so there are our thoughts on the Carabao Cup final. Moving on to Huddersfield Town's new boss. Jan Sivert was announced earlier this week as the replacement for David Wagner, and today it was announced that he has recruited Barnsley's assistant manager to, be his assistant manager. Apparently, they've paid a very big, compensation fee to Barnsley. What impact is that going to have on Barnsley's promotion push for League One? We'll see. I'm not sure specifically how big a role he had in, the way Barnsley set up and the way Barnsley play. But, what we're going to see with Barnsley is going to affect them. What we're going to see with Huddersfield Town, they currently sit 10 points away from safety. They currently sit on 11 points in the Premier League, 10 points off safety. Can they really survive? Is this man really going to be the one to save them? Harry, you've been looking into the kind of style he play he uses.
Yeah.
Is that gonna bring them some goals, if anything?
Well, Jack, I'd like to start with some poetry. In recent weeks, I can't deliver the smile on the faces of our supporters. David Wagner, December the 28th, 2018. Isn't that, he could deliver the smiles to me. That's something I'm just going to say.
You don't even like Huddersfield.
But is Sivert going to be able to deliver those smiles? I don't know. Anyway, I have looked into Sivert's style of play. So he is an attack-minded coach. He always puts out that attacking 4-3-3 formation. Is that going to provide more service to Steve Mounier, the striker who has scored 1 goal in the Premier League this season? David wasn't happy with that, even though he said he was so happy for Steve when he scored. Anyway, he needs more service, and I'm going to be honest, I've watched a fair amount of Huddersfield this season, and Diakaby on the left wing, not being impressed by him. I don't think he was really the man to fill in that spot, and they've got Jason Puncheon now, and I think he's been playing quite well, and I just hope to see him, playing well, probably on the right side of the flank. I would argue probably Diakaby left and Puncheon on the right, and they just need to get some quality balls into Mounier, because if they want to get that about 21 points, was it, to guarantee safety, it's going to have to be...
They're getting 35 points to guarantee safety. They're currently 10 points off safety.
35 points.
It's usually what you need.
So, okay. And I don't know how many have they got right now. 11. So, yeah, that's going to be...
24 points.
That's going to be 24 points to guarantee safety. Wow. 15 games to go. I can't see that happening, to be honest. That is a lot of games which they've got to have to win, and that is also relying on other teams struggling. I think what Sivert's really got to focus on is he's just got to play for pride. He's got to play to make sure that those players get some momentum going into what is likely going to be a championship season. And something great I found out about Sivert is, obviously he was with the Borussia Dortmund under-23 team, but he had a real reputation for being great with the youngsters, and they would always comment on how good he was with the young players. And I think that because of that, it's going to be going into the championship, getting some hidden gems from the youth team, and hopefully building foundations to return to the Premier League. Because I'm not going to lie, I've loved having Huddersfield in the Premier League, and I would love to keep them in the Premier League, but I doubt that's possible. And if he can build the foundations to get them back, I'd love to see that. I'm looking forward to see how Sivert's going to play.
Like you just kind of briefly mentioned there, I think by bringing in this appointment, they are very much thinking of the long-term plan. Yeah. Now, David Wagner had apparently offered to stay for the rest of the season because he said himself he really wanted to take a break away from football. Obviously, that's come earlier than what he might have liked, but I think he would have stepped away at the end of this season anyway if they had got relegated at the end of the season. I still think they are. 35 points usually gets you safety. To be 10 points already away from the current survival, that's going to be so hard for them to make up. So like you say, they're very much going to be thinking of long term. I think we'll see the introduction of quite a few youngsters quite a few, young, exciting wingers maybe, or a couple of young, exciting midfielders or defenders who are really going to be able to consolidate Huddersfield's, position at the top of the Championship next season. People who, players which, Seibert's going to think are really going to play a big part next season. I think he's got to bring those in because as soon as Huddersfield get relegated, the amount of players that you'll see leave are incredible. Arsenal have scored 2-1. Aubameyang pulling a goal back for Arsenal before half time. That's big. That's a big goal before half time. Anyway, as I was saying, Jan Seibert, it's a good appointment by Huddersfield. They are thinking of the long term, and for a 36-year-old manager to come in and manage a team like Huddersfield in the Premier League, that's only going to be good for him in terms of his experience. And going forward, he's got a lot of time on his hands. He's going to have a lot of young players, fresh ideas. It's going to be, I'll tell you what, it's going to be quite exciting for Huddersfield in the next few years. They might get relegated this season, but at the end of the day, back in the Championship, winning games probably week in, week out. It's going to be an exciting season next season for them. But that ends our short middle section, and we move on to previews. So this weekend is the FA Cup games. There are quite a lot of FA Cup games to cover, so we're going to very much kind of shy away from coverage of the FA Cup. We have covered the FA Cup before in previous episodes, so make sure you go on the YouTube channel, The Football Natter, subscribe, and go through the previous episodes to see who we think are going to win the FA Cup. Go and have a look, check it out, leave us a like. So we're going to leave the FA Cup for this weekend. Obviously, we've got Arsenal, Manchester United on in the background, as you've heard us commenting on throughout this episode. But we'll move on to the next Premier League games, which are Tuesday and Wednesday, with 6 games on Tuesday, 4 games on Wednesday. And there's a couple of tasty fixtures, really, Harry. And we'll kick things off with Arsenal-Cardiff. So, if we assume that Arsenal are going to lose this game against Manchester United, Unai Emery's going to have to do something because Cardiff are not the easiest of opponents. In fact, Cardiff will probably propose as much of a threat to Arsenal as Manchester United currently are. Because Neil Warnock is going to go to the Emirates Stadium and set them out to be almost like a brick wall and just counter. They've got the pace of Mendes Lang, they've got the pace of Bobby Reed. At the end of the day, they're going to Junior Hoylett as well. At the end of the day, they're very much just going to sit back and say, "Well, come on then, come on at us." Because as soon as you come at us, we're going to get in down the channels. We've all seen the problem with Arsenal this season, that their left back and right back move too far inside, just leaving the channels completely open for wingers to run wild. And Mendes Lang is the kind of player that will take that opportunity and bomb down the wing. I think personally, up against Kolasinac or Maitland-Niles, they've got no chance. So, Cardiff are very much going to be a big threat to Arsenal, and that is why I'm going to go for Arsenal to only scrape a win. No, I'm probably sound like I'm contradicting myself, but I think Arsenal, the quality very much is going to be there miles and beyond, and they probably will break through. Aubameyang's in great form. Lacazette's finally turning, into a solid striker. So I'm going to go for Arsenal 2, Cardiff 1, and Neil Warnock's side to be very, very unlucky at the Emirates.
Yeah, Arsenal have had quite a few problems this season. Obviously, as you mentioned, often the fullbacks do get caught upfield too much. They saw that even with Bellerin, who's now out for 9 months, and no, he's not pregnant. And also, yeah, Maitland-Niles has shown a little bit of inexperience at times.
Well, he's not a right back, really. He's a centre mid.
Well, it is a bit of a different position for him. But at times he's played quite decently. And then, obviously, Kolasinac, similar kind of issue. And as for the centre-backs, they've shown a real lack of quality this season, as you've seen with Socrates, who is now injured. What a shame. But the thing is that they're still going to come out with their attacking flair, as we've just seen, literally. Aubameyang can be really dangerous against any team, including Man United, obviously. And Lacazette also. It's just going to be a question of, can Cardiff hold out? They're going to probably put 10 men behind the ball, at least. And I think it's going to be an Arsenal win, just 2-0.
Okay, Fulham-Brighton. A big game for Fulham at the bottom. A game at Craven Cottage they're going to want to win. But I see Brighton going there and taking all 3 points personally. 2-0 Brighton for me. Chris Hughton. Brighton haven't had the best run in the past few games. But personally, Fulham are just too poor defensively, and they just don't seem to be doing anything about it. So I'm going to go for Fulham 0, Brighton 2.
I've watched the last 2, maybe 3 Fulham games, and it's been really interesting to watch because identifying their issues is quite simple, and as you said, it's just defensive. Players like Odoi, whenever they're on the ball, they just seem so nervous. Like they just can't quite control that back line, and that has been their real issue this season. But going forward, they really look quite dangerous. To be honest, we all know the quality of Mitrovic, and against Spurs the other night, Ryan Babel, their new signing, when he was, he started and he played for about 50, 60 minutes, and he was actually really good. He was brilliant, and it's a shame that he couldn't play the whole game because obviously he's trying to get top fitness for the Premier League. So it'll be interesting to see. I think Fulham really are fighting. And Brighton, yeah, they've been a little bit inconsistent, and it is a chance for Fulham to really gain those points that they need to live in the Premier League. 2-0 Fulham.
Okay, so we're going for exact opposite there. Huddersfield, Everton. Obviously, Seivert's going to want to make a really good impression for Huddersfield. Marcus Silva, on the other hand, is really going to want to get Everton back onto a really good run of form. They were really, really poor over Christmas. What the hell happened to Jordan Pickford? He suddenly looked like it was your Nanning goal. He couldn't save a thing. So I'm going to go for Huddersfield 1, Everton 1 in this one.
Part of me wants to say, no David, no danger. But to be honest, I think Huddersfield really are going to come in with a little bit of danger. Everton, they've actually been pretty bad recently, I think. And I don't see them coming 7th and maybe not even 8th this season. And I think Huddersfield need the points. Seivert said that he feels confident that he can keep Huddersfield up. And even though I don't think he really will, I think this is a classic game where he can go for the 3 points, which they're really going to need to stay up. So I'm just going to say it. 1-0 to Huddersfield.
Okay. Wolves, West Ham. Big game for West Ham. Big game for Wolves. Obviously, Wolves winning a great game versus Leicester. No one could have predicted that. None of us got anywhere near 4-3 to Wolves against Leicester. What a game that was. Jota hat-trick, incredible. He's been incredible so far this season. And for me, Wolves are going to carry it on with a 2-1 win against West Ham. They're really starting to pick up the pace now at Molineux. Nuno Espirito Santos saying he wasn't afraid to pitch invade again. Who cares about the fine? He loves his team. The players love playing for him. You can really see that they're really playing for him. We all know he's a good coach, and he's really proving that in the Premier League, and Wolves are going to once again win.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Wolves, absolutely brilliant. What a game that was. Jota, what a player. Wolves, they're going to continue it. They're going to go for 7th. They're going to go for Europa League in their first season as a promoted team. It's looking dubious for teams like Watford, who aren't always able to stay consistent, and I think Wolves are going to reassert their dominance in this spot. 3-0 to Wolves.
Okay, moving on to Manchester United Burnley, and I'm just going to come straight out and say it. Burnley have not a cat and owl's chance. They may, been a little bit of form. Drawing away to Watford was a good result, really, for them. Tom Heaton seems to be, actually, being able to keep the ball out their net compared to the pathetic efforts by Joe Hart. But Manchester United under Solskjaer are just incredible, and it's going to be 4-0 Manchester United for me.
Yeah, I mean, since they scored their second goal, actually, Man United have looked a little bit unsure against Arsenal, but that's Arsenal. And we're talking about Burnley here. Not just that, it's going to be at Old Trafford. And to be honest, Burnley, I really expect them to get relegated. They could even come last the way they go. I think they'll probably get about 19th place for me. And, yeah, as you said, not a cat and hell's chance. So I'm just going to go 3-0 to Man United.
Okay, Newcastle, Manchester City. Now, Newcastle, they need the points. They really need the points. Benitez is really, really fighting for them at the minute. Manchester City just seem to be destroying everyone they come up against once again. And, their bad run of form is well and truly over. And I don't personally think they're going to lose any, if not 1 or 2 games for the rest of the season. They're really, really going to keep the pressure on Liverpool. But going to St James's Park is not the easiest task. So, for me, I think Manchester City are going to win, but I'm going to go for 1-0 Manchester City. It should be a very, very tight game. And, Newcastle are really going to set up. I think set pieces are going to be big for Newcastle against Manchester City. And, Laporte and Stones or company, whoever plays, is really going to have their mind focused on the game. And, Lascelles is also a big threat from set pieces. So Newcastle are really going to use those set pieces to their advantage. But I think Manchester City are still going to win, but only by a goal to nil. Harry, what do you think?
I agree it's going to be a tight game, so this probably means it's going to be like 5-0 to City now. No, but as you say, set pieces will be vital. You've got the massive head of Rondon. You've got Kieran Clark. He can do a job on the set piece, Lascelles. So I think they need the points quite badly. I think Benitez is probably holding out for a new owner with his fingers crossed, his toes crossed, his everything. Because, he's just too good for Mike Ashley. But I'm going to say 2-1 City because, they're City.
Nice and blunt. Okay. Do you want to do a quick fire for Wednesday's four games? Quick fire results. Okay, so we've got Bournemouth, Chelsea, Southampton, Palace, Liverpool, Leicester, and Tottenham, Watford. You ready? Me or you first?
You first.
Me first. Okay. Bournemouth 2, Chelsea 2, Southampton 1, Palace 0, Liverpool 2, Leicester 0, and Tottenham 0, Watford 1.
I'm going Bournemouth 0, Chelsea 2, Southampton 2, Crystal Palace 1, Liverpool 2, Leicester 0, Tottenham 1, Watford 1.
Why do you think Tottenham are actually going to pick up a point? Right, the only good thing is that South Korea have just been knocked out the Asian Cup, so Son is going to be on his way back relatively soon. But my God, did Spurs look dire against Chelsea for most of that game? Do you really think they're going to put up a fight against the informed Watford?
Well, the thing is I feel so bad for Tottenham. Like they're missing their three main players: Son, Kane, and Ali. Obviously, still got Eriksen, but that is not enough.
He can't do it on his own.
He can't do it on his own. And Llorente, I know he scored against Chelsea, but he was looking so poor. He's really past it. He needs to retire, Llorente, or at least play in the Spanish fifth tier. It's time for him to hang up his boots, I think. But Tottenham need a new striker. It's simple in playing, or they need to just use Kajia Sterling, who's on the bench. And I think they'll pick up a point because they've still got quality in the team to rival Watford, because Watford aren't exactly like the greatest team in the Premier League. So that's why I think they're going to be able to rival them. And I just really hope that they're going to be able to put in a decent performance. We'll see how it goes.
Okay, episode 2 is done. It's finished. That is the end. Thank you so much for listening and joining us this week. You can, of course, catch all episodes on our YouTube channel, The Football Natter. Find the latest 3 episodes on Spotify, iTunes and SoundCloud. And join us next week on February the 1st, the first day of February of 2019. God, 2019's going quick already, Harry. Put it in your calendar. Set an alarm. Tell your neighbour's mum. Because Friday the 1st of February is episode 3 of The Football Natter. We'd love to see you then. Thank you for listening. It's bye from me. And it's bye from Harry.